Yeah, I just see that being like iterations and iterations, or at least this is the pattern I'm
Yeah.
picking up in what you're saying of like starting with the zombie idea. And one of the things they touch on in here, and they do reference that there's more facets to it, but one of the facets is consumerism, and that ties right into what you're talking about as the beginning of Fight Club, where he's like got to have the perfect IKEA couch and the chair and the clothes and everything, the cornflower blue icon on the desktop, everything needing to be aligned just perfectly. And the idea that out of that will come meaning, out of the consumption of the proper things will come meaning. Um, I hear you saying that as well with the philosophy of like, oh, does this, if we take in too many of these ideas, if we say this means something about humanity, like can we simplify it back down?
Hmm.
There's also some level of like consumption there of being careful what we take in,
Hmm.
um, and
Yeah.
and 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 taking as real things that maybe aren't real,
Yeah.
you know? And that when it let me try and trace that thread again. Um, with the zombies where it's consumption based, like in Fight Club, he starts out like that, and then he realizes that that's not going to work. Um, And if we stick with just the zombie as consumer metaphor, um, this idea that we're just here to eat, whether that's brains, flesh, or Netflix, and um, I don't know, the Kardashians, whatever
Yeah.
cultural,
Yeah.
cultural stuff that we're fed, the right fashion, or talk about their go to the right, music concert, extravaganza things, whatever it is, the consumption of culture is another kind of consumption. And in all of those, like there's this objectifying of things, right? Even down to if you look at the people doing the marketing, sort of causing the need for consumers to consume, they're treating people as objects. Oh, if we can just convince these people that if we can make them do the thing we want them to do, which is buy our products, then we'll be rich. How do we make them do that? Not how do we benefit them so that things go well for them. So then they talk about, the sort of word of mouth because I've made something good and true and beautiful and it will support itself in the culture and it will uplift the culture. You don't often have that as the main message. It's often like, you need to have this. You need, link it with sex. Oh, the hot lady selling you the burger, or the adventure. Oh, look at this car. It'll take you on an adventure. You need to have this in the car. We'll give you this thing that you need. So all of that is like, nom. It's trying to throw things at you and telling you that you have a lack and you need them. And to the extent that you go along with that program, you become a zombie. You're just consuming whatever it is. Um, I'm sure they'll probably get into that more in the later chapters, but that was sort of my read on that. But what that does is it creates a world where nature, you were saying go back to nature. But before we go back to nature, while we're still in the zombie mode, it creates a thing where nature becomes an object
Hmm.
devoid of meaning, simply to be harvested, produced from, and then consumed.
Hmm.
So sort of processed and consumed.
Hmm.
Um, and there you have like the zombies, our own zombie nature, our own consumer nature beginning to turn on the world and devour the world, which I think uh, Vervaeke and crew mentioned domicide, the destruction of the home, and I think I assume they're going to probably get into that somewhere too. But all of this comes back to seeing things that either are alive or could be alive. People are alive, plants are alive. You could argue maybe the planet's alive in a certain way. So, don't, mining. I'm thinking you can't really say that a mountain's alive the way you can say a forest is alive, but there's still something there that you can respect. And traditional cultures, traditionally we would have a relationship with all of these things as entities and beings that are alive and that we relate to, and that through those relationships, we derive meaning. And so, the zombie as the zombie walks as sort of a wink and a nod to each other of, hey, wow, we're just walking around consuming things and there's no meaning to our life. Um, the treating of people like objects, um, and 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 then to bring it back to Fight Club, like once you realize that that doesn't work, you get angry, or at least you start having emotions. So he
Mm.
goes to try and deal with those emotions in like the 12-step programs, because he feels sick. He feels like he's dying, just like the zombies are sort of the walking dead. This is
Mm.
just coming to me right now. But he goes to these cancer support groups where everybody literally is dying, and he feels seen because he, on some level, is dying as well, or at least is realizing he's been in this state of living death. He's been a zombie consuming. And then that, like you said, that gets shut down. I forget in the book if it stops working or if he gets, oh, Marla Singer comes out and
Yeah.
tells him he's a faker, and then he can't
Yeah.
he can't do it anymore. So the sort of dark anima figure comes in and like negates it for him.
Mm.
And then he's forced to deal with the rage, the deadness and the sort of he's forced to come back into contact with the violence, and then has to destroy the culture because of the empty, meaningless nature of the culture. Um, Sort of necessitates that. So then you have this sort of mindless destruction element. And I think at least the question for me is, if we start to see the end of consumerism, if we start to wake up and realize that we're zombies in this way, how do we respond? Do we turn on the system and tear it down? And what are we left with if we do? Or do we try and build something new that doesn't get sucked into the system that seems to commodify everything? I feel like that's really, at least within this exploration, it's occurring to me that that might be what the zombie's pointing us to. The figure to see ourselves as a zombie is to come face to face with the fact that this is the world that we're stuck in, that we're living and we're sort of ignorant of. And what do we do about that? Like that's kind of the question the zombie presents us with.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, I
yeah.
agree with that. Please like and subscribe for more of our open minded content and comment below on your thoughts or questions about the story. Let us know if you'd like us to cover another stimulating story, and thank you for participating. Yeah, I think that's